Hello everyone, welcome to MinseyCrafts. I am Minna and I am your host on this channel. In today's knitting vlog, this is actually going to be a tutorial. I'm going to share with you my hand felting technique, and I am not sponsored by any of the brands that I'm showing you or talking about on this video. I'm starting my felting process and this is what I'm starting with. It's the snoot is roughly maybe 15 inches or about 37 centimeters long, if you can, or wide, as you can see here. For hand felting, you need a bucket, some soap. I'm just using dish soap here. I've felted before and used the dish soap and that worked well. I also recommend having kitchen gloves on because it can be a little bit rough on hands otherwise. Additionally, what we need is hot water and then agitation, and that's what I'll be doing next. I have now added as hot of water as I can from the tap. I'm just doing this in my kitchen sink, and I put some dish soap in there, and now I'm adding my snoot in there. Just put it in the water there, and next need to start just agitating it. This will take a good amount of time, but the end result will be more accurate than if you did this in a washing machine. You will have to keep changing the water as soon as it starts feeling a little bit cooler. I have now been swirling this for 5 minutes, and I think it's time to change the water. Also, something to note is that often the darker colors will leach some color out of them. So if you're felting two different colors together, just be observant that the lighter color might get stained. Also, anything with like striped items. I have this now at 13.5 inches, which is about 34 centimeters. And this was at the result of 16 minutes of continuously agitating the fabric in hot water. I did 2 changes of the hot water during this time, and so this actually felted quite quickly. I've hand felted something else before, which was in my notes I read that it took at least 20 minutes before I started noticing felting. So good to keep in mind that different yarns may felt a little bit differently. And I am going to stop at this now because I don't want it to become any more shorter in the height. But I think this is probably good for the width now as well. Next, I will do 3 rinses in cold water for this before I will put it to dry flat. The yarn that I used in this video for the project that I hand felted, it is this, I'll show you quickly the label, West Yorkshire Spinners Retreat Super Chunky, and it looks like this. I have just a little bit of it left now at this point. It is, you can see it is quite chunky, and it is this kind of rowing yarn, and in my opinion this yarn felted amazingly well. So I can definitely recommend that if you are looking into felting projects. I will put the link again for the yarn in the space below. I'll also list the items that I used for this hand felting and just like a short recipe how I did it. I measured the water temperature, what the hottest water is that comes out of my kitchen tap, and that was 55 degrees Celsius, and I posted that earlier already in the video. Now, I've done some hand felting before, but that was a number of years ago now. We lived in a different house back then, and I remember that the felting process took a lot longer, and actually I wrote notes about it. I have my crafting journal that I write like a diary about my projects and what I did and how I did it, and so I've written down times, how long it took me to get it to felt it to the size I wanted. Now back then I used Drops Snow yarn, and it's also a rowing yarn, a little bit less chunky than this West Yorkshire Spinners yarn is. And kind of do have a suspicion that the water, the hot water from the tap in the house that we lived back then, wasn't quite as hot as the water in this house that we live in, and so I kind of think that now, from this experience, I think that maybe the hotter you can get the water, the better. But maybe it just requires a little bit of experimenting as well, because obviously it's going to be quite difficult for your hands if you have it like boiling hot. And I'm not entirely sure how the yarn would, the fabric would react to boiling hot water. But it's worth experimenting, and also now I can say that safely say that 55 degrees Celsius works really well. Obviously, it's very important to get a lot of agitation in as well, so you have to really keep your hands in there. And I can definitely recommend wearing those kitchen gloves, because it's just otherwise it's like really really horrible for the hands. It's a bit of a colder day today, so I'm wearing a shawl that I knitted probably about 10 years ago now. This is with Drops Design, what's it called now? Kid Silk yarn, and this is lovely. It is very luxurious. And here I am going to introduce to you a special guest, if a special guest wants to be introduced. This one is our little baby girl, Agatha. Agatha is maybe a little sleepy. Are you a little sleepy? Yes. Oh. Agatha is a 2-year-old Labrador puppy, and she's kind of crazy, but we love her. In truth, my knitting nook is actually what we call a little couch, and in reality I very rarely get to actually knit in my knitting nook, because it's usually occupied by 1 or 2 dogs. And thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video at all, like and subscribe. You can also leave comments about my technique, or if you have felt it any projects of your own, and let me know what your experiences were. Also, if you felt it with this yarn, any other yarn, just share them with us on this community. Thank you. I'll see you next time.